Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded a video, but I'm back, and in today's video we're going to talk about the history of Nintendo home systems. So for the first one, we're going to go back to 1983 and the release of the Famicom in Japan. It revolutionized the gaming industry and helped to recover from the crash of 1983. And 2 years later, in 1985, it got a release in North America as the Nintendo Entertainment System. Altogether, the system has sold almost 62 million units, and by the time it was discontinued in 2003. Some of the most popular games for the system include Super Mario Bros., Donkey Kong, The Legend of Zelda, and Metroid. Now we're going to move on to 1990 and the release of the Super Famicom in Japan. It got a North American release a year later in 1991 with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, it upped the graphics from 8-bit in the NES to 16-bit. Now, this is the point where the term console wars starts to take shape, because the Super NES was competing against Sega's Genesis system. But at the end of it, the SNES has sold 49 million units when it was discontinued in 2003, while the Genesis had only sold 35 million. Some of the most popular games include Super Mario World, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Donkey Kong Country, and Super Mario Kart. Next up, we're going to move on to 1996 and the release of the Nintendo 64. Now, it upped the graphics from the Super NES even more, from 16-bit to 64-bit. And this is Nintendo's first ever 3D system. Now, while it wasn't as successful as the NES or Super NES, it ended up outselling the Sega Saturn at 32 million units compared to the Saturn's 9 million. But it definitely lost to Sony's PlayStation system, which sold a whopping 102 million units. Next, we're going to move on to 2001 with the release of the GameCube. Now, this system ended up being even less successful than the Nintendo 64. So, the GameCube mainly competed with Sony's PlayStation 2, Microsoft's Xbox, and Sega's Dreamcast. While the PlayStation 2 won it by a huge margin at 155 million units, the GameCube simply just landed in third place, selling only 22 million units compared to the Xbox's 24 million. But it definitely outsold the Dreamcast at 9 million. And by 9 million, I mean a 9 million that's less than the Sega Saturn's units. Now we're going to move on to 2006 with the release of the Wii, a personal favorite of mine. So Nintendo tried to appeal to a broader audience than its competition, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And that worked for Nintendo. The Wii sold almost 102 million units compared to the PS3's 87 million and the Xbox 360's 86 million. Unfortunately, Nintendo's next console wouldn't be as successful. The Wii U was released 6 years later in 2012. It featured a new controller with a touchscreen as well as the usual buttons and analog sticks. It was also Nintendo's first HD console. Despite all this, it definitely lost to its competitors, the PS4 and Xbox One, selling 110 and 50 million units respectively. Altogether, the Wii U sold only 13.5 million units. But Nintendo's next system, which is actually a hybrid system, would help them recover from the failure of the Wii U. The Nintendo Switch was released 5 years after the Wii U in 2017. It became the fastest selling console of all time and ended up barely outselling the Xbox One. The Nintendo Switch had sold 62 million units so far. And that is a brief history of Nintendo home consoles. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.